Prior to joining Cyxtera, I was the special agent in charge of the Special Operations and Cyber Division within the FBI's New York office. That's the largest cyber investigative division within the FBI. Part of my responsibility was, of course, managing the investigations into cyber intrusions of large enterprises, primarily financial institutions, but I was also responsible for infrastructure protection. I think organizations today need to take a holistic approach to fighting fraud. Many enterprises are focused on single points of entry or single security vulnerabilities, and when you have that kind of siloed approach, that kind of isolated problem solving, without looking at a total solution, you can miss opportunities to interdict and interrupt a fraud cycle. So I think the main lesson for enterprises today is to take a more integrated, intelligence-driven, and holistic approach to fighting fraud against their institutions. Over the course of my career, I've seen criminal organizations evolve to leverage technology. In the 90s, the challenge for the FBI and other law enforcement agencies was the collection of evidence off of particular individual devices like desktop computers or even personal devices. Today, we're seeing cyber criminals use sophisticated software and sophisticated multi-pronged attacks against financial institutions and other enterprises to actually leverage their infrastructure against themselves. So the complexity of an organization's infrastructure is being used against it. We see cyber criminals taking advantage of siloed approaches, meaning they are particularly good at information gathering, they're particularly good at execution, and they're particularly good at cashing out. If an enterprise is looking at each of those in a silo, they put themselves at a distinct disadvantage. We need to start thinking like the cyber adversaries and create an integrated approach, and we need to thinking more like the strategies that law enforcement deploys, and that is to look at an organization in all of the different phases it uses in order to execute and complete the fraud. Cyber criminals today are using a multi-step process to commit fraud. This gives enterprises an opportunity to interdict a fraud scheme at various points, from the intelligence collection point to the execution phase to the cash out phase. It's important for organizations to leverage all of the tools available to integrate that approach to prevent fraud. If an organization has a siloed approach, if you're looking at point solutions, if you're looking at creating a single point to interdict a fraud, you're probably missing multiple opportunities to protect the organization. It's important to understand that the cyber criminals are facing multiple challenges. We have to put more challenges in front of the cyber criminal. We have to understand what they're doing, we have to see what they're doing, and we have to have the ability to stop what they're doing. And that requires an integrated approach. Law enforcement, for example, will have, of course, intelligence gathering capabilities to understand the adversary. We'll have a monitoring and surveillance capability to understand what the adversary is doing in order to execute the fraud. And of course, we'll have the ability to detect when that fraud is being cashed out. I think private organizations would do well to take the same approach. That's a multi-layered approach, giving you multiple opportunities to interdict fraud to protect your enterprise. One of the primary challenges for organizations is to understand exactly who is on the other side of a digital communication. That has traditionally been done with a username and password. We're finding that that is no longer effective. We need more robust authentication, more ways to understand and to verify that the person we're doing business on the other side of the wire is the person that we think they are, whether it's our customer, our partner, or anyone else we're connected to. Having just a username and password is insufficient. Cyber criminals have come to a point where the use of a username and password is just a speed bump in their fraud scheme. By transferring complexity and cost to the cyber adversary in the form of additional verification methods, we are making ourselves safer, and we're taking away the incentive and the possibility for cyber criminals to affect our organizations. Some of the ways we do this is with multi-factor authentication, using context and other indicators like biometrics to verify the identity of the adversary. This makes it much more difficult for the adversary to either steal a username and password or buy or borrow a username and password to enter into our network or to purport to be a customer or a partner. Having a solid basis for verifying the person at the other end of the communication is essential to preventing fraud.